Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the American Sports Connection. I am your host, the one and only Joey Railroads. I am here with my buddy Adam, and if you follow us regularly, you know what today is. Today is Shoot the Shit Sunday.
Bang.
What's going on, Adam?
How you doing, Joey?
Doing good.
Yeah. I didn't know what you wanted to start off with today. I know we were talking about for our video game of files. We were talking about briefly about the Video Game Hall of Fame.
Yeah, we can go there.
6 games inducted and a couple notable snubs that probably have the nerd set in flames on the internet.
Before you continue, for people that aren't familiar, I'm going to read off the names of these games that were put into the second annual Video Game Hall of Fame. Last year, I'll read through them. The 6 inaugural titles from 2015 that were let in were Doom, Pong, Pac-Man, Super Mario Brothers, Tetris, and World of Warcraft. Well, this year, that, as you said, that have some people up in arms, the new crop were Sonic the Hedgehog, The Legends of Zelda, The Oregon Trail, which I loved in grade school, by the way.
Ancient PC game.
Grand Theft Auto, and The Sims.
If I could jump back to the inaugural, we were saying before the show, no complaints. Actually, I do have a minor complaint. I was just thinking about it. Because it's the inaugural, and you would think for the first induction, the behemoths of the industry would be in there. To me, Doom is not fall into that category.
I agree with that.
I enjoyed Doom. And, of course, it inspired, sequels and remakes and a horrible movie. But for the inaugural set, everything else I'm good with. What about you?
I agree with that.
Yeah. And then for this year, Grand Theft Auto, you knew that was getting in. I mean, I never really played it much. Did you?
I played it to the point of wearing out my PlayStation 2.
Wow, really?
Like, to the point I had originally bought a PlayStation 2 almost specifically for Grand Theft Auto 3.
Mm-hmm.
And back then, you needed memory cards, if you remember correctly.
Absolutely.
And I was unaware at the time that you had to have memory cards. So I was a teenager at the time.
Oh, God.
So I didn't have the money, and my mom wouldn't go get me one at the time. So I would basically play Grand Theft Auto from almost beginning to end, like non-stop until
turn off the machine.
Yeah.
It's blazing hot. Smoke's coming off.
Yeah,
of it.
for like 6 to 8 hour clips,
right.
And then stop and then repeat it the next day.
Leave the game on, right?
No. I turn it off and then redo the whole game.
Oh, you started from the beginning?
Yes.
Holy crud.
So I basically ruined my PlayStation 2 at one point.
See, I did something similar with Super Nintendo, Super Ghouls and Ghosts. No save points, no lithium fucking battery, no nothing. You just had to play all the way through. And then I don't know if you beat this first boss after this agonizing series of levels, and he tells you, oh, you beat the Demon King, but you must come back and beat him again with this weapon. And then, in what might be one of the most cruel turns in video game sadomasochistic history, you have to go all the way back to the goddamn beginning and beat every single level again. And you have to make sure you have this ring weapon when you get to the last boss, which, by the way, this ring weapon sucks. It's like it shoots slow and straight, has no power. It's just like, But I left the system. I would leave the system on. I wouldn't tell my mom. I put like a towel over it or turn it to the red light. I would hide it, push it away, and make sure it wasn't sitting on something, that would burst into flames overnight, like a phone book or something. And I didn't turn it off, man. That was how you did it. But I feel you on that. That was a mess. Couple notable snubs though, and I know that you're not really too concerned about the one, but one that really bugged me was Final Fantasy, man. I think Final Fantasy needs to be in.
I agree with you. It was just never my thing.
Right, and I totally get that because I never got into Grand Theft Auto at all, but I appreciate its historicity. And I love how people like condemned it and said it was creating evil in the world and that kind of stuff.
There's plenty of evil going on in the world before video games.
Yeah. I mean, if you're already a psychopath in waiting, Grand Theft Auto will probably fuel your passions, and if it doesn't, you'll probably find something else too. But I think if you're emotionally healthy, I think you can play GTA and not.
Well, I will tell you this. I played that one, and then I played I don't know if you consider it like a reboot, but it was Vice City.
Oh, right. Like a ancillary game.
That was really fun too because they played a whole bunch of 80s / Miami Vice music on that game.
Nice.
Like you would listen to like Howl at the Moon by Ozzy, and there was a lot of fun stuff, but I actually never played any more of the series after that.
I never really got into it for some reason. I think I was just like into other stuff. Maybe I'll have to go back and retro it one of these days.
Okay, well, you said there was two noticeable ones. Final Fantasy, and who's the other one?
Madden's got to be in there.
Oh, God, yeah.
Madden changed. Madden, introduced... Madden, you might... I don't know if you say it saved the NFL, but when the NFL started to slip in popularity a little bit, Madden came along and made the NFL, like, not only relevant, but... something that was marked for passion. A whole new generation of young football fans thanks to that game.
When I think of Madden, I always remember back in the early days on Super Nintendo, you had you could have the tournament of the regular teams on one side, like you obviously like the Eagles, the Packers, whatever.
Right.
And then on the other side, you'd have like Madden's All-Stars against Madden whatever.
Right.
And that used to be really fun.
They threw in some some of the later versions. Like a lot of the newer features annoy me more than anything. Like I think the passing has just gotten ridiculously hypersensitive.
Oh, you mean like hold triangle to throw a bullet pass, hold circle to throw a lob pass?
Maybe, I grew up on a controller with like 2 buttons and a cross on it. I mean, it's a little bit much for me. Maybe I'm just getting old, but
You're getting old.
Okay, thank you. But up to a point, I don't know. I just think it's a little bit too much. I always like when they had like the classic teams, like the old. I think they had like the 60-something Packers, the 76 Raiders, and some Niners teams,
and the other thing I always loved about the old Madden was if you hurt someone, then they'd have the ambulance come out.
Yeah.
That was great.
That was always cool, yeah. But that's basically where a lot of people were saying, oh, no Tomb Raider, no. Tomb Raider, to me, is not a Hall of Fame game series
because they're not cranking them out still.
Yeah, the staying power it didn't graduate to the newer systems well.
Okay, I want to make this quick announcement. If anyone wants to call in with their views or opinions on this, or basically really anything today, since it's Shoot the Shit Sunday. You can go on Skype and find us at American Sports Connection, all one word, and call in and give us your opinions.
And join the chat, too.
And, yeah, join the chat as well, like Chris is doing right now.
Okay, so we've nerded out on the video games. What else you got?
I'll talk about this since me and you had talked about this a little bit beforehand about Babymetal, and people that are not familiar with Babymetal is the only way I can explain them is J-pop meets metal. It's like basically fusion music that they call in Japan kawaii metal, which translates to cute metal, which is 3 little Japanese girls. I think only one of them is 18. The other 2 are 16 and 17, I believe, around that age. And they sing almost like pop like songs, but with metal backing to it. I guess that's the way you would explain it.
Yeah, I would say, just like to describe the music in a conversational way without getting technical, I would say you have metal riffs and very fast metal drum tracks, and then you have these bridges or choruses, which they almost sound to me like, if you just look away, it sounds like the theme song to like one of those kids comedy shows on Nickelodeon. Like, especially like on Gimme Chocolate, for example. If you just turn away and listen to them sing that, it's hard for people to kind of grasp what it really is, and it's kind of weird at first, but
it sounds really like J-pop.
Yes, I've gone pretty nuts for it. I think it's awesome. I love when musical styles are fused anyway.
Yes, I really enjoy it, and I got to give props to Steve Colbert, for having them on The Late Show for their U.S. debut.
Yeah, and he was so funny when he introduced him. He goes, "I have no idea what I'm about to see,
but I'm excited about it.
I'm excited." And they put on and they did Gimme Chocolate, and it was really outstanding. And the fans were
they were salivating over it.
Yeah, the audience went nuts, really. I mean, it was a great performance.
The reason I'm bringing this up is their latest offering that's in, where you can go buy it at Amazon or other places like FYE. Metal Resistance has actually debuted in the US Top 40, which has not happened for a Japanese group and of any kind since after World War II.
Holy crap. Well, that's great, and it's nice to see them getting some mainstream attention. Although I always like to think of them as kind of being on the outer edges of
popularity.
Yeah, but I think it's great that they're getting recognized, and to the purists who are complaining about it, because as you said, despite what we always have liked to think, the metal community is not very open.
They really are not.
They're very exclusive and culty and judgmental in many ways.
I was going to say, I have to give it to these girls because their live performances are wild, man. I saw a video, and I had briefly told you about this last night, that they have a song that literally is translated Death. Babymetal Death. It's off of their their first album. And the live show I saw, and this is wild. I'm surprised people haven't had a fit about this. Maybe because they're not completely super mainstream. That the one girl, Sue Metal, who is the lead singer and the oldest in the group, was literally crucified on a cross. And they're like, people are like jumping up and down, screaming death with her like tied to this cross, and has like a neck brace from their first album that is for the song Headbanger that symbolizes something to them. I don't know exactly what. But anyway, at one point they're playing a song and she like is down like this, like she's dead, and they start playing a song and she like pops up back to life like, ugh! And then like all the little other girls start like running around the stage like panicking, and she gets out of this thing that she's tied up in, and I'm like, wow, this is a really like fun, interesting show. Like, you wouldn't expect that. You know what I mean?
I do, but I do have to say, having explored some other avenues of Japanese entertainment, some of which we will mention here and some of which we will not, to reasons of statutes of limitations. No, but Japanese, they are very open-minded.
They push the envelope,
and they are they're very progressive, and they very aggressively, and honestly, they unabashedly express interest in things that we consider taboo, which I admire. I mean, there's always like a little element of like they're into like the bondage thing. There's always a little bit of hinting to that. Of course, their manga. Their anime goes to all kinds of extremes.
Hentai.
Right, been a lot of controversy about that, about the adult material, pornography. But I mean, one thing that Japanese films and music, they're not afraid to commingle different things, and they're not afraid to explore certain taboos or certain things that we consider edgy or off the chart here. Sort of forbidden stuff, and I really enjoy it. I think as a society, I think that they are truly progressive. We're going to talk about that a little bit later if it's okay with you. I was reading a thing on the internet about, is the United States really a leader in progressivism in the world? But anyway, I think it's really cool that you brought up Babymetal like that, because they go on YouTube. You can listen to any of their songs, see videos, see translated interviews. It's really cool, and I mean even kids. There's really not very much about their material that you wouldn't be perfectly fine letting your kids listen
I was just
to.
going to say that they send out a very positive message.
Yes, very topical. So that's another. I mean, it's kind of hard. Not all the songs have a translation, but if you can find a song, you made a good point there, Railroads. They do touch on some social issues that young girls face and that young people and students face. And
there's two in particular. One is "Give Me Chocolate" on women with their weight issues of how they're perceived. They have to be skinny and they want chocolate, but they can't have it because of the self-image,
body image problems. Yeah.
And then the other song they have is about bullying. About basically not to bully and let everybody be who they are, and those types of things, which I think is great in this day and age.
Yes, and another thing interesting about Japan is kind of like what the United States is going through now. They've been through a phase of elevated youth bullying that they've had to deal with. It actually happened there before it happened here. I think it started way back in the 70s when there were like these roaming gangs of schoolgirls. I'm not even making this up. It sounds like a manga, but these roaming gangs of evil schoolgirls with like razor blades under their skirts and stuff. That was crazy, issue that they had to deal with. But again, you're right. They're touching on some important social stuff too.
Well, I know you wanted to talk about something that is important to you over in the Far East.
Yes. I don't want to go into it too long, but it is an international topic that affects the United States. It's already, let me see. It's just about midnight in the Philippines right now in Southeast Asia, and they're having their presidential elections Monday
morning.
Yes, and it's one of the interesting things to me is that there is a candidate there who is very reflective of one of our candidates.
When I've looked at the things you posted, he reminds me, and correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of Donald Trump.
Yeah, and I know that a lot of people really admire him, and he's a mixture to me of Sanders and Trump, which not that I'm saying Sanders and Trump are similar, but the reasons why people are drawn to them are similar. There's anger, there's frustration, there's a feeling that the entire system is corrupted. There's a huge income gap, which the Philippines is experiencing right now. The Philippines as a nation is generating more and more revenue, but there are more poor than ever. So you have that 1% type issue going on. But this guy is Rodney Duterte, and he is the mayor of a beautiful city, Davao, if I'm pronouncing that right, Davao, I apologize. And he has cleaned up crime in that city. It is a beautiful, beautiful city. Corruption is down, has a well-paid and well-organized police force, fire department, EMTs, drugs are drug use and drugs are way and nobody wants to mess with this guy, which brings me to my concern, which is there is a lot of talk. I know his supporters are going to bristle at this because they say it's rumor and innuendo, but these are the things that are being said, that he has death squads, that he has openly said that he will hunt down criminals and kill them. There's been talk of creating a revolutionary government and rewriting the Constitution. Now, Duterte is an interesting guy to me because he's a socialist, Sanders. He's already in his 70s, Sanders. I believe he's 71 years old. He has allegedly worked out some peace deals and some other diplomatic arrangements with communist rebels to the south who are considered very violent and dangerous, and he's reaching out to everybody. He's a socialist, but he's got a support of the INC, which is one of the biggest churches there. Doesn't this kind of remind you of Trump, though? Like, Trump's not an evangelical, but he's getting all he knocked off Cruz, who was supposed to be the evangelical guy. But frankly, I'm a little worried. I mean, he's openly said that he would invite communists to be on his cabinet, which some people are okay with, but other people are a little bit concerned. Is this taking a dictatorship, going in a dictatorship direction? He's also kind of thumped his chest. It's funny, really. I think he was just being sarcastic, but he kind of thumped his chest at the U.S. and Australia because there were some critical comments made of him by the media in both those countries, and he basically stuck his chest out and dared them to cut ties with the Philippines, which is funny on the one hand, but I also have a concern about, countries that kind of wall themselves off and cut ties. North Korea.
I was just getting ready to say they're turning into the next North Korea.
Yeah, it's that would really bother me, and like Trump, he's like Sanders. He's making a jump. Sanders was the mayor of Burlington, Vermont, and did a beautiful job there. And a lot of people say, well, that's Burlington. The country is. And I think Duterte is getting the same criticism. Wow, you did a great job being mayor, but the country is a little bit different, and
which it is to a certain extent.
It is. I mean, although there are principles that can be carried, to that. And I don't know, what the guys. He's also a lot like Trump in that his words have a connection with the people, but he's not getting, to me, he's not getting enough into the actual ideas. He's not really telling you exactly what he's going to do other than these very broad general statements. I'm going to do a sweep and destroy the drug organizations. And there are drug czars in prisons in the Philippines that are running the prisons, and all this kind of stuff.
Much like in the States.
Yeah, I mean, look at Baltimore. A whole prison turned into a nut house. But yeah, so he's promising to fix these things, and I'm excited about that. But I being, a lover of the Philippines and the Filipino people, and having a lot of friends from that region, I do have a concern of what a Duterte presidency would mean in terms of changes in the laws and in terms of the strictness. And I mean, there are other countries that are very strict, like Singapore, and they kind of make it work. But, there's always that concern of, leaning into dictatorship. And you know me, once he got the support of a big church, I got really scared. Because once you know you've got God on your side, you're capable of any monstrous behavior. But I don't know, if anybody out there, my Filipino friends, if you want to jump in with a comment, fine. If you just want to listen. But I did post a thing about Duterte earlier this morning, and seeing it's election day, I actually polled some of my friends, like, who are you voting for? And Duterte a lot more, than Rojas or Poe or any of the other big candidates. So
that's interesting.
Just and the polls up to now have said that Duterte's in the lead. So, but again, like what we were wondering with Trump and Sanders, will those polls translate to actual votes, or are people just blowing the smoke of their anger?
I also wanted to bring this up about our election.
Sure, it's a good lead-in.
Yeah, the thing I have been reading is there are a lot of the Democratic establishment that believe Hillary Clinton is going to get indicted after she wins after they basically
after they pour the anointing oil on the horn.
Yeah. Because I want to say won the primary, but I'm kind of like, I mean, look, I know she has more votes and everything, but that's just how I personally feel. But that was the rumor I had been reading, that the FBI was going to indict her after she had gotten the presidential nod. Wow. That's what the YouTube channel, The Young Turks, was discussing. If you don't follow them, with Cenk Uygur and Anna Kasparian, go check them out. They're probably the most progressive channel on YouTube right now. I frequent them very much so. But the frightening thing to me was that Cenk Uygur was at the White House dinner. I can't remember what it's called.
The Correspondents'.
Thank you, the Correspondents' dinner. And he said that he polled a lot of the establishment of the Democratic Party that said if Hillary Clinton does indeed get indicted, Joe Biden, they would want to slide into her spot as opposed to Bernie Sanders, which to me, if you put Joe Biden as your candidate, that is a recipe for disaster.
Let me say this, and I'm going to ask you a question about what you just said. I think that, all due respect to whatever they have on Hillary, I mean, is it just because the timeline of building the case is going to take until then? Or is it really like some kind of a strong-arm political move to wait until she's nominated and then, kind of like Law and Order, walk in for the dramatic arrest,
I think it's to basically humiliate her, if you want my honest opinion.
Which I don't approve of, honestly. I mean, Hillary's a big girl, and she could play dirty, but I don't approve of the tactic. But why do you say that a Biden candidacy would be disastrous, or presidency?
The only reason I say that is because Bernie Sanders has had this movement where he's collected X amount of delegates and Hillary Clinton has collected X amount, and they've had a really tough fight over this. And then you would bring someone that has even said he doesn't want to be in the presidential election at all.
Right.
That's my issue, that it's almost like a slap in the face to every person that voted for Sanders, that wanted that revolution to change our political system. And a lot of the establishment is like, nah, we're not going to give you what you want, even though this guy's, I don't want to say neck and neck with her, but he's very close.
But he's the next most relevant candidate, and the voting has borne that out. I understand what you're saying. not only is it a slap in the face, it's a slap in the face to the process.
Yes, that too.
You know, but the other problem that I have is just to inject a little humanity into it. Is Biden, his body language is totally no. I mean, he's still grieving his son.
Well,
I don't care what anybody says. And his body language, I saw him in a couple interviews about I don't know if you saw the thing I posted about him commenting on the Supreme Court problem and how, you know, he's, and to me, his body language is just like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to get politically engaged right now.
And I'm gonna tell you something.
Mm-hmm.
And I mentioned this to someone else last night. If you have, and it looks like that's where we're headed unless something unforeseen happens. If you're going to have a Clinton versus Trump presidency to choose,
race.
Yeah, I would put every dollar I have on over half of this country not coming out to vote.
Huh.
We had the lowest turnout the last time in ages. We had over 60% of this country did not vote in the Obama-Romney election.
Wow. So, but okay, that's very telling. However, and you agree with the polling that has Trump basically beating Hillary by a couple points?
I haven't seen it.
Okay, well,
to be honest with you.
No, that's fine. I thought maybe you had, because I know you're constantly digging into the internet for info about this stuff. But the stuff that I've seen still has him beating her soundly but closely, like 3 or 4 points here, you know, within 5 points, but consistently across the board. Whereas it still has, to what I've seen, Sanders beating him soundly.
Mm-hmm.
Which, this creates a quandary. Because what do you do? Because a lot of these people, they don't like Sanders, but they're also fearful or unwilling to commit fully to Trump's lunacy. And again, Joey, that's another similarity between the two. It's like we fear them, but there's a worse option out there. And it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out and who really does show up. Because who shows up at the polls, if all the people who should vote, Trump is not going to win. I'll just put it like that. If people get too discouraged by who's running against Trump, and then they look at Trump, they're going to do like we, they're going to sit home again.
I told Chris this last night, and you'll laugh when I say this.
Right.
If we have those two choices, Clinton and Trump, it's like choosing between drinking a gallon of bleach and taking a cyanide pill.
Yeah, battery acid enema and having barbed wire wrapped around your testicles and tied to a mule. You know, it's not a pretty choice to a lot of us, and that's where the concern about the turnout comes in. So my thing is how the hell do you get people to be proactive in a process where they just don't agree or believe in either of the two major candidates,
or don't give a damn?
Yeah, what the hell do you do?
And because I don't know if you've noticed this, I want to say at least 1/3 of Bernie's supporters have said if he's not the nomination, they're not voting.
See, that to me is a little bit of the dark side of the millennials.
They're pig-headed.
Yeah, don't bring to life everyone's nasty conception that you're all a bunch of spoiled brats who don't work and play video games all day and eat Doritos, you know.
And live off the government.
Right, don't live up to that and be childish about it. You know, there's still a statement to be made. You still have a voice. You know?
Here's what Chris says. He says, or it's like being tied to a chair and being forced to watch every incarnation of Desperate Housewives.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, time for a little Polish roulette if I have to do that. But yeah, it is a very tough choice and an unpleasant one for some of us.
And I've specifically told other people, because I have a good friend, Pearl, who I'll say hello to because she'll be watching this later on in Canada. I told her I would probably vote for Gary Johnson before I would vote for Hillary or Trump. And her fear when I sent her his webpage is that he's very conservative on certain things.
Right.
Which he really is.
Yes, he is.
And to be perfectly honest with you, the reason I don't really fit in either party is because I consider myself more fiscally conservative, but more liberal on social issues.
Right.
So I don't fit.
Right. Well, and the thing is, maybe we should stop trying to fit, which is one of the things that the candidates are helping us to sort of do. If nothing else, Trump, I will give him this. He's getting people outside of the two-party box a little bit and he's tapping, I hate to say this, I'm a little bit ashamed, he's tapping into how a lot of Americans feel. And he's shamelessly exploiting that and working it to his favor, Joe.
I will say this. He used to be on television. He was a reality TV star, so he knows how to drum up attention.
Yes, he does.
So it's almost like, and I heard someone say this, and it was a beautiful point.
Yeah.
Every week, it's something new with him because it's almost like he's like, okay, well, a new episode has to come out, so I have to drudge up something.
He's like that one coworker you have or that one kid you go to school with that has to have a new enemy every week. And sometimes the new enemy is their best friend. Could be anybody. But they have to have they're very adversarial. And they have to have somebody to shamelessly go back and forth with. But did you see the thing that I posted by Bill Maher about Donald Trump?
Yes, I watched it.
People, get out there and watch Bill Maher's summation of Donald Trump relative to the feminist movement, and it is hilarious, and it is so accurate. Donald Trump is the stereotypical, 1950s female of presidential candidates. He's whiny, he's petty, he's short-sighted. He seems to have a period that lasts 28 days a month. He seems to undergo these sudden chemical changes that screw up his thought process, which is what the old school always said about women,
Here you go. Chris in the chat says, I have a comparison for you for Trump. Frank Grimes from The Simpsons.
Grimesy! But, hey, it's a good one, Chris. And I'll tell you what, if you see that thing by Maher, basically what he did is he takes all of the anti-misconceptions about females and he lives up to them. He's begrudging. He's petty. He's argumentative. He's a nagger. He's a whiner. He said openly in an interview, I'm proud of my whining ability. I whine until I win. This is the wit and witticism of Donald Trump.
I watched the same episode, and it had an interesting conversation with Ann
Coulter.
Thank you, Ann Coulter, and two other gentlemen who I'm not familiar with.
The actor from Trumbo was there, the guy we like from Breaking Bad. He was on that show too. He was off to the other side.
Okay.
I can't think of his name, but
But they had a very interesting, I don't want to say fight, but go between.
Yes. Yeah, well, Coulter, what she's all about. She's probably, other than Trump, the extreme rightist who makes conservatives the most uncomfortable. She's just horrible. And like Trump, she says a lot of absurd and disgusting things, and they would be funny if she didn't really feel that way. And now the interesting thing about the Trump candidacy, Joey, is that we're done laughing. It's not a joke anymore. I don't know about you, but I take Trump very seriously,
Yes.
and I want him done. I want him defeated. I want him down. I'm not talking about a 30-06 from the book depository, but I do want him out.
I just really wonder where they're going to go with this. If the Republicans are going to strong arm the party, and what I mean by strong arm it is when they have their convention, if they're going to, and people will laugh when I say this, that they're going to pull a coup d'etat.
Yes.
And basically say, you might have got the people's votes, but we don't give a goddamn what the people want, and prop up who they want.
It could create, a war that will challenge the electoral system, which, on the one hand, I think would be somewhat corrupt in itself, but also leads to links to our previous discussion about the electoral system and how ridiculous it may be.
Maybe if it happens, it would lead to monumental change that would be for the positive.
Yeah, I could see where we do need a change in the electoral system, and maybe that would be a catalyst for that. But how about Trump's people? It's been reported that they're already bullying. He's got, he's got his own little stormtroopers, whatever the hell you want to call them. They're bullying the delegates. Did I tell you about this?
Yes.
Where they were like saying, we will visit you at your hotel room if necessary to make sure you do the right thing.
Well, that, and then I've read that if they didn't, they would give out their personal addresses and phone numbers.
And actually, the one guy was on the news saying he got like call after call after call, and they're very carefully constructed threats. Not, I'm going to kill you, do something to your friend, but he goes, you want what's best for yourself. You want what's best for your life. You want what's best for your family's safety. It's kind of like a veiled threat, kind of like the carefully constructed threat of a guy like Donald Trump, who knows litigation better than anybody since Oliver Wendell Holmes. So he's being extremely. It's very Trumpy. It's very believable in how these little threats are being carried out. But that's kind of scary. This takes you back to the old, nightstick politics of the early 20th century.
I was going to say it reminds me of 1930s Berlin.
Yeah, I hate to. Yeah, it's not funny, but it's funny. But yeah, I mean the skullthuggery in politics. Making a little bit of a return, especially if you go to a Trump rally, for God's sake.
And I'm not condoning the violence that either Hillary Clinton supporters or Bernie Sanders supporters are doing at those rallies. Because, listen, I completely agree that you are well within your rights to peacefully protest. Mm-hmm. I have no issue with that. The issue I have is if you're blocking the road so people cannot get through. Right. Or you're starting violence to cause a riot or something along those lines, that is not part of the political process.
Yeah.
I mean, because people will say, we are going to support people that are anti-Trump no matter what. No. Look, I might not like or dislike Donald Trump. However, he has, in this country, the right to say whatever he wants because our First Amendment protects it. If you don't like it, don't listen. It's as simple as that. Turn the TV off.
Well, the other thing, too, is if you don't like it, ostracize it. Mock it. Get on the radio and shout it down. And encourage others to do the same thing. But you're right. Being a provocateur, being the guy that shoves the security guy or slaps him and then gets taken down.
No, Chris, I agree. That's wrong. Chris is saying, what about in the one Trump rally where there's video of his campaign manager slugging that woman in the crowd?
Oh, Chris, there's no doubt that in Trump's case, the violence is institutionalized, meaning it's coming from the highest source.
Right, but what I'm trying to say is, if you're going to protest in a peaceful way. Don't, if they're doing those types of things, what I'm saying is don't stoop to their level.
Exactly, and a lot of the Democratic, some of the edgier supporters, and let's not forget how wackadoo the left can get sometimes. They can get pretty crazy. But, you know, what they're doing is they're exploiting that violence at the Trump rallies. And they're going in and they're sending moles in to provoke it. Like maybe they'll like get 2 inches from a guy's face and scream or spit or push a guy or give a guy a little slap. And I mean, to be fair, don't fuck around with security people. They're trained to warn you to get back where you belong. And if you don't, they're going to take you down. They're going to twist you up like a pretzel. They're going to get you under control. And they're going to get you out. So don't provoke a guy like that to choke slam you and then go cry to the press, oh, I got beat up at a Trump rally.
There's one other thing I want to bring up that is a big issue to me, not just in this election, but in the election process in general. Where, and I'm sure you're familiar with this, and people that are not from the United States, I'll try to explain it the easiest way I can. In certain states, when we have primaries, there's a difference between a primary and a caucus. What a caucus is anyone that is not registered to a party. You could be, say you lean Democrat or you lean Republican, but you're basically an independent because you're not registered for either party. You can vote in those elections because it's a caucus. But if you're in a primary, most primaries are closed primaries, meaning that only people that are registered to the parties, Democrat or Republican, can vote in these elections, leaving independents out, which to me is the greatest disservice our country could do. For the reasoning I'm about to give is, and CNN has put polls about this on television. I know they're not the most reliable. I've read others that have brought this up that are more reputable. However, I've read that over 40% of our voters in this country are independent voters. They do not lean Republican or Democrat. They are independent voters.
They're not in the books.
They're not on the books.
Party, right.
So, in my personal opinion, I think they should be allowed to change these closed primaries to open ones where anyone that is of legal age and has the right to vote should vote.
No, you're right. And what at first probably seemed like an organizational tool has now kind of almost turned into like this complicated conspiratorial thing to keep voters from voting, or at least to,
it feels like voter suppression,
to agitate the process so that they'll just say, you know what, screw it, I'm just one guy, I'm not going through this hell.
And believe me when I say this, I'm not saying that voters are suppressed. However, when you have 1/4 of your population, or over 1/3 of your population, independent voters, a good portion of them are not going to be allowed to vote. So how can you say this person that wins these primaries or people is someone that the people voted for or they chose when a certain group is being ostracized?
Yeah, I mean,
sorry, that just really aggravates me.
No, I mean, we're supposed to be able to have, open doors, in this country for everybody to easily partake in the democratic process, and it just seems like there's all these, conscientious monkey wrenches being thrown into the works, so that people will just say, you know what, it was just like in the Bush. Gore in Florida in
2000
in the remote rural I guess poor swampy areas of Florida, largely black populations, tremendously largely Gore populations, and they had issues with the nearest polling station being 50 miles away, and they literally had to bus these people in, and there were issues with the transportation. There were issues with the polling stations opening late and closing early, so the buses pull up and it's like, the sign is swinging in the window, we're closed. All this stuff being done, and it really, it's I guess it's modern day ballot stuffing. I guess we have to live with it to a certain extent, but it feels to me like it's not just a matter of some guy in a trench coat walking up to a ballot box and stuffing a few extra papers in there. It's much bigger than that, and therefore it's much more dangerous to democracy, Joey.
It's sad.
Yeah, it really is, and this is the most engaged I've been in a presidential election. The last one was a big one, for obvious reasons, but this is important.
This is, I will say, and some of you know this, some of you don't. I'll be 33 next month. Adam's a little bit older than me.
Little bit.
Yeah. This is probably the biggest election of our lifetime.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
When you would think about whoever wins this election could potentially name, I would say, 3 to 4 new justices.
Right.
And it could basically swing the power of the Supreme Court in either a conservative way or a liberal way. Right.
What it's going to mean is a swing from what is it, 10 or 12 justices? I can't remember, but it's going to, I'll just throw
I think it's 11.
I'll throw an example out there. It's going to, I think you're right. It's going to swing the advantage for whichever party wins the Oval Office. It's going to be right now it's 6-5, I think, and it will swing it to 8-3 or 9-2, and that's going to change legislation for decades.
So what I'm saying is, whoever wins this, you could potentially, depending on who it is, could see a all conservative Supreme Court justice for the next 40 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which means, I'm not knocking conservatism. However, you could see us as a country return to 1950s Alabama if they win, where all the progress we've made in many different social issues go right back down the toilet.
And that's a great point, and I think that's a great lead-in for something else I wanted to talk about for a little bit, which was, is America really the leader in progressive politics?
No.
Just a couple things to think about. I forget how many nations in the world now, I think maybe 80 overall, have already had a female leader. Okay? Now, the United States, my mom was born in, let's go with my dad, because he's even older. He was born in 22, okay? So my dad was born 2 years after women got the right to vote. It's not that far away, people, and if you think to how women were treated and how they were expected to play a role, even as recently as the 1950s,
mm-hmm.
Okay, then you have issues of, okay, let's take racial injustice. Catholic Church didn't begin to speak out against race, I think, until the 1960s. Also the same thing with anti-Semitism. They didn't come out officially and really speak on the evils of anti-Semitism until the 1960s. I mean, officially, as an institution. So, religiously and politically, to me, this country's been behind in a lot of ways. And it's sad. Other countries, used to look up to us in terms of these things. When Johnson finished Kennedy's work on the Civil Rights Act and everything, oh wow, but it just seems to me the U.S. is falling behind. And other countries are at least trying and failing. Even though they're failing, they're trying to install a secular government where you have the religious pluralism. You have the ethnic pluralism. You have the political pluralism. You have multiple groups coexisting, but you don't have any one of those groups running the government, which to me is the worst thing that can happen to a government.
Well, I'm going to tell you this, and I don't know if most people know this. However, when people talk about America being the greatest country in the world, I can tell you right now it's not even close where we're not the greatest country in the world. I'll tell you right now, and these are some rankings that I'm reading right off of the press. We rank 14th in education in the world. We're second in ignorance in the world.
Now, by ignorance, what do they mean exactly? Do you have any information?
Yes, I do. Just give me a second.
Okay.
I just saw that. Social statistics, such as teen pregnancy, unemployment rates, and voting patterns.
Okay.
We are the second most ignorant country in the world.
Oh, so not knowledgeable about the issues. Have you ever seen this crap on late night TV where they ask these college students, like who Alexander Hamilton is?
It's scary.
Who Alexander Hamilton? Isn't he the center for the Wizards? And oh my God, it's horrible.
I just cringed. And
go ahead with the rankings.
We are number one in something, and I bet you will know exactly where I'm going.
Gun-related homicides, imprisonment of population.
We rank number one in the world in incarcerated people. Number one in, what was the other one? In total prisoners in the world.
Oh, sure.
Number two in drone strikes in the world.
God. How about infant mortality? Do you see anything like that?
I'm looking for that. Here's a good one for you.
Okay.
This made me laugh. The U.S. ranks 101st in the world in peace.
Wow. I don't even know if I can name 100 other countries.
Can you guess what the number one country is in peace in the world? You could probably get it.
Is it from my fatherland area? One of those?
It's in that area.
In that area, Netherlands.
No.
Okay, who?
Iceland.
Okay, there you go. I could dig that.
I just thought that was crazy. Second in the world for approval of drone strikes.
Oh well, yeah, of course. Any new technology comes along that helps you kill more people faster, we're all for it. And this isn't. We're not. We're not in opposition to the United States. Don't get us wrong.
I love my country.
Me too.
But it could be so much better. That's the issue I take.
Yeah, and it's standing at the edge of a very dangerous precipice.
Look at this. This is the other one that makes me cringe. We rank 24th in literacy.
Jesus. That is shameful. I saw a thing about how we do in the different subjects, like the individual, like math. Dude, we're getting demolished. Like engineering. You would think that if you had a health problem, the best place to get it treated would be the good old USA. Nope.
Here you go. Here's the one that Bernie Sanders is running on.
Go ahead.
The U.S. ranks first in the super rich. First in the world.
Wow.
We have 46.3% global distribution of wealth. Every other country, 36.5%.
Wow. I wonder about the income gap. They have any kind of numbers on that? On
No.
Okay.
I'm scrolling. Yeah, here you go. We rank first in locking people up.
Of course. Anything related to prisons, well, it's big business. That's why. It's a huge financial undertaking.
Wow, I find this hard to believe. It says the U.S. ranks 6th in, quote, living the good life.
Well, living the good life is wide open to interpretation. So
I know. I was just like, really?
Yeah, I'm a little scared.
It's just, this is cool because they have a lot of interesting. Here's something to show our vanity to other countries in the world. We rank number 1 in plastic surgeons.
Oh, God.
I'm looking at it right now. It's ridiculous.
That's another big thing in Asia that I'm worried about. Like how obsessed they are with whitening their skin, unnarrowing their eyes, elongating their noses. Like stuff that doesn't even matter. I get to the point, it's nonsense.
That's weird.
Yeah, and it's a shame because there's a lot of dangerous products over here that the FDA here has banned, like that glutathione that they're all using over there in Southeast Asia to whiten their skin. If anybody's listening, that stuff is banned by the Food and Drug Administration here. It's toxic and it's been linked to blood diseases and liver diseases.
Here's one for you.
Go ahead.
The U.S. in terms of minimum wage, we rank 11th in the world. And this is interesting. Australia is number 1.
So they have the highest minimum wage?
$15.75.
Huh. That's interesting. I wonder how their overall economy is doing. Because, it would kill some people to hear that somebody has a $15 minimum wage and it hasn't completely dropped an atomic bomb on the economy.
You would think it would be all right because you never really hear anything bad about them.
I haven't heard anything like they're collapsing, like Greece or Cyprus or anything like that. Well, we'll have to read up on that, for another time.
Yeah, we're gonna read up on that for another show, just for shits and giggles. There.
Absolutely. How are we doing on time, by the way?
We're a little bit over an hour.
Oh, okay. Well, you're in charge. I'm just.
Well, there was something else you wanted to get off your chest.
Was there? A little boxing talk. We can go sports. Yeah,
We'll end with this.
Yeah, it's shooting the shit Sunday, but it's okay. We'll go a little boxing, little sports. As you may or may not know, last night was a fairly important fight on the boxing scene as Cinnamon Canelo Alvarez demolished Amir Khan. My God!
For those of you that didn't see this, go to YouTube.
Check out this knockout and watch the referee lean over Khan and do this sweeping gesture with his arms like he's covering him with a burial cloth. It's hilarious. Khan is so horizontal. You could put a level on him and the bubbles would be right in the middle.
I've never seen such a vicious knockout.
I've seen worse, but that was one that brings me back to some of the stuff I love about prize fighting. So Canelo Alvarez is now the new face of professional boxing, which is good. He's a tough guy. He's a good boxer. He's strong. He's big. He's got a little attitude.
But he still hasn't climbed the one mountain that no one wants to climb.
Right. And I just want to say this. I know that, because of my friends in Southeast Asia, there may be many Pacquiao fans listening. There are probably some Mayweather fans out there listening, and maybe some fans of Alvarez. He's achieving godlike status in Mexico, where he hails from. And here's the thing. Here's what all of these 3 guys need to do. They all need to do one thing. If you want to, especially for the 2 older guys on the list, Pac and Mayweather, you want to go out with a bang and end your career with some respect and have some boxing fans tip their hat to you. You need to stop all this nonsense about McGregor and Timothy Bradley. Oh, dear God, I would rather watch 2 bald guys fight over a comb than watch Bradley and Pacquiao. Yes, railroads. I would rather insert objects into my mouth and force myself to vomit. But, here's what they need to do. They got to fight Golovkin. nobody wants Gennady Golovkin. Go on YouTube and watch this guy.
Look up Triple G.
Yes, you will understand. Greatest hits, highlights, whatever. Look that up. You will understand why Pac has made no mention of him. Mayweather is, from what I understand, his people were actively avoiding him. Alvarez, when last asked about it, was rather sheepish about it, as you mentioned. He kind of said, well, I have business to handle, which means...
He turned into a goddamn politician.
Yeah, it's boxing talk for I'm going to run for my life, But even Alvarez, Alvarez right now, Cinnamon, you're the face of boxing, and you got a chance to bring boxing back up to that, romantic level that it had in the 40s.
Bring it out of the ashes,
40s,
so to speak.
Right, the 40s through the 80s before, big money and guys who wanted to retire undefeated without challenging themselves ruined the sport, and corruption, of course. You gotta fight Golovkin, Cinnamon. You're in your prime now. He's undefeated. Alvarez, lost to Mayweather. There's no shame in that, But, Pac and Floyd, nobody wants to see you two guys dance for another 36 minutes. Alvarez and Pac-Man I could kind of live with, because that's the kind of fight somebody's going to get hit and somebody's going to get knocked the fuck out. I have no interest in seeing Mayweather fight anybody but Golovkin now. I don't care about Pac-Man again.
And he's not going to do it.
No, I sincerely doubt. I mean, if you have, this is how stupid it is. You mentioned this before the show. You have Golovkin sitting there to cement your legacy, and he's a high risk. I'm not ignorant of that. Okay, I'm not. But here's the thing. You could cement your legacy by fighting this destroyer, and instead your dad is talking to the media about having a crossover fight with this Claude McGregor, who retires after the first time he gets his ass whipped, which I find very disappointing, by the way. I liked McGregor's moxie, but when he got his ass handed to him, he turned into a big baby. I'm going to say it.
Well, it was actually... it was partly that, but partly that he was basically holding the UFC hostage for more money.
Well, whatever the reason, and yes, we understand that retirement is a word that gets thrown around.
Because he wanted I don't remember the exact figure. I want to say it was either 10 or $20 million he wanted to fight at UFC 200. And they didn't want to give it to him. So he kind of was like, all right, then I retire.
I get that, and I want to believe, even though that's the puss-baggish maneuver, but everybody does it now. Oh, I'll just retire. Like you said, taking hostages, but after getting your ass kicked, it's not a good look. Like if McGregor were still undefeated and he wanted to say, oh, I'm the man now, you pay me this amount, I'll just retire undefeated. Still a puss bag move and still manipulative, but it would be a lot better look than you just got your face smashed in and just like that. And whether it's accidental timing or not, just like that, you're retired. That is a puss bag move, and I absolutely hate it. And I hate that Mayweather's making a 3-ring
circus,
chicken head biting off carnival show out of the halcyon days of his famous or infamous career by talking about fighting a UFC guy instead of he's got history right there standing in front of him. Can you box Golovkin for 12 rounds, dude? Can you do that?
And it's funny you mentioned that because someone you don't particularly care for, Stephen A. Smith, has gone on record and said under no circumstances should Floyd Mayweather ever get in the ring with Triple G.
Not if he wants to protect his legacy and his what I call the goose egg, the big zero, which is no losses. Yeah, he's going to want to protect that, and I kind of understand that. But if you really want to be great and you really want your name carved in stone on that Mount Rushmore of boxing with Sugar Ray Robinson and all those other guys, You got it right in front of you, Floyd. Fight Golovkin or piss off and go live in the back of a strip club. It's the same thing with Pac-Man. Dude, fight Golovkin or go into politics. Join the presidential race in the Philippines, whatever. But don't, don't fight schlubs.
All right, everybody. On that note, we're going to get out of here for today. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. We will be back on Tuesday evening, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time for our Monday Night Raw review. So until then, have a good day, everybody.